Empath's darkest upgrade, cold, calm, unreachable empath's final form is not when they become cruel. It is when they become impossible to control. There is a moment, quiet, invisible, almost sacred, where something inside you changes. Not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. And if you're here, you've already felt it starting. It doesn't feel like power at first. It feels like exhaustion. It feels like silence. It feels like you're losing something when in reality, you are finally seeing something, because the truth is you were never too sensitive. You were never too emotional. You were never too much. You were just too available to people who were never capable of handling you with care. And here's the part no one tells you: that pain you feel right now, that heaviness in your chest when you think about how much you gave, it is not the end of your softness. It is the beginning of your transformation. But into what? Because something is changing, isn't it? You're not reacting the same way anymore. You don't chase like you used to. You don't explain yourself 10 times just to be understood. And that scares you, because if you're not the one who fixes everything, then who are you? That question right there, that's the doorway, because the empath's final form is not revenge. It is not becoming cold-hearted. It is not becoming like the people who hurt you. It is something far more unsettling for them. It is emotional inaccessibility to those who abuse your kindness. And once you cross into that, there is no going back. You remember how you used to be? Always checking the emotional temperature of the room before you spoke. Always adjusting your tone so no one felt uncomfortable. Always reading between the lines. Even when there were no lines to read, you carried conversations, you carried relationships, you carried people who never once tried to carry you. You would lie awake at night, replaying their words, analyzing every detail, wondering if you said too much or not enough, and then you'd wake up the next day and try again. You forgave quickly, you understood deeply, you gave people the benefit of the doubt. Even when your intuition was screaming at you to stop, you felt everything, and that was your gift. But slowly, it became your burden, because not everyone saw your empathy as something to protect. Some saw it as something to use. They leaned on your kindness without ever pouring back. They depended on your understanding while refusing to understand you. They expected your patience while testing your limits, and you tolerated it. Not because you were weak, but because you believed people could change. But here's the truth that changed everything. They didn't misunderstand you. They understood you perfectly. They just knew you would stay. That realization, that's the beginning of your darkest upgrade. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens in small moments. The moment you type out a long message explaining how you feel, and then delete it. The moment you notice fake kindness before anyone else does. The moment you feel the pull to fix something and choose not to. The moment you stay silent, not because you're afraid, but because you're done. That silence, it's not weakness. It's awareness. And suddenly something shifts. You stop trying to be understood by people who never intended to understand you. You stop offering explanations to those who only listen to respond, not to feel. You begin to see patterns. And once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. That's when the empath goes quiet, not empty, not broken, just clear. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because when you change, the people who benefited from the old, you start to panic. They notice your distance, your calmness, your lack of reaction, and they don't understand it because they were used to your emotional availability. They were used to your explanations, your long messages, your efforts to fix everything. But now they can't reach you the same way. And that terrifies them. So they test you. They push your buttons, hoping you'll react like before. They say things designed to trigger your guilt. They try to pull you back into old patterns, but something is different. You feel it, you see it. And for the first time, you don't respond the way they expect. This is where most empaths get confused, because you start to feel cold. But let's make something clear. Cold does not mean cruel. Cold means controlled. It means you are no longer emotionally available for disrespect. It means you no longer give access to your inner world to people who misuse it. You still feel, you still care, but you are no longer open without discernment. And that is power. Calm does not mean weak. Calm is what happens when your nervous system stops chasing chaos. It's when you no longer feel the need to prove your pain, when you don't argue to be understood, when you don't raise your voice because you know your truth doesn't need volume. Calm is silent confidence. It's knowing that your energy is valuable and not everyone deserves access to it. And then there's unreachable. Unreachable does not mean broken. It means protected. It means people can still see you. They can still think about you. They can still remember the version of you they once had access to, but they cannot reach that version anymore. And that is what confuses them the most, because they didn't lose your love. They lost access to your wounds. And without your wounds, they have nothing to control. Let that sink in. They didn't want your strength. They wanted your vulnerability without responsibility. And now you're no longer giving that away. So they call you distant. They call you changed. They say you're not the same person anymore. And they're right. You're not, because the old you tolerated things the new you refuses to accept. The old you explained yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. The old you stayed in places that drained you. The new you observes, understands, and walks away without needing to be understood. That's the upgrade. And yes, it feels lonely at first because you're no longer surrounded by people who fed off your energy. But what replaces that loneliness is something far more powerful. Peace, real peace, the kind that doesn't require constant emotional labor, the kind that doesn't come with confusion or overthinking or anxiety, just stillness. And in that stillness, you finally hear yourself. Your intuition becomes clearer. Your boundaries become stronger. Your sense of self becomes unshakable. But let's go deeper, because this transformation isn't just emotional. It's neurological. Your nervous system, which once lived in a constant state of alert, always scanning, always adjusting, always reacting, begins to regulate. You no longer feel responsible for everyone else's emotions. You no longer absorb energy that isn't yours. You begin to respond instead of react, and that changes everything. Because manipulation only works on reactive people. When you stop reacting, you become impossible to control. That's the real shift, not louder, not harder, just unavailable to manipulation. And here's where you anchor it into your life, because this isn't just a mindset, it's a practice. The next time someone tries to pull you back into guilt, into over-explaining, into defending yourself unnecessarily, pause, feel the urge to explain, and instead choose one sentence. Just one: I understand how you feel, but I am no longer available for this pattern. And then stop. No extra words, no justification, no emotional performance, just stillness. Watch what happens. They will try to provoke you. They will try to reopen the conversation. They will try to pull you back into the version of you they could control, but you don't move. Not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself more. That is the moment everything changes, because boundaries don't need to be loud to be effective. They just need to be consistent. And consistency is what most people cannot handle, especially those who relied on your inconsistency to keep access to you. Now they face something unfamiliar, a version of you that doesn't bend, a version of you that doesn't explain, a version of you that doesn't chase. And they don't know what to do with that because they can't manipulate it. They can't guilt it. They can't control it. And for the first time, they have to face themselves, not you, themselves. And that's why they leave or change or get louder. But none of it matters, because your peace is no longer negotiable. And here's the beautiful part. You don't lose your empathy. You refine it. You become selective. You give your energy to those who reciprocate, to those who respect you, to those who don't require you to abandon yourself just to keep them. You still love deeply, but you no longer love blindly. You still care, but you no longer carry. And that different is everything. You become private, not secretive, just intentional. Not everyone gets access to your thoughts. Not everyone gets access to your emotions. And definitely not everyone gets access to your time, because you understand something now. Access is earned, not given freely. And once you understand that, you move differently. You speak less, but with more weight. You react less, but with more awareness. You engage less, but with more intention. And people notice, they feel it, that quiet strength, that calm presence, that unshakable energy. And some will be drawn to it, while others will be threatened by it, because your silence reflects their noise. Your calm exposes their chaos. Your boundaries reveal their lack of them. And not everyone is ready to face that, but you are, because you've already faced the hardest part. Letting go of who you used to be so you could become who you were always meant to be. This is not your darkness. This is your clarity. You are not becoming colder. You are becoming wiser. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming discerning. You are not becoming unavailable. You are becoming intentional. And the ones who truly see you will not be confused by your change. They will respect it, because they were never trying to control you. They were trying to understand you. And those people, they stay, they grow with you, they meet you at your level without requiring you to shrink. That is the difference. And now you can finally breathe, because you are no longer performing. You're no longer proving. You're no longer pretending. You're just being. And that is the most powerful state you can exist in. So if you feel different, if you feel quieter, calmer, harder to reach, don't panic. Don't go back. Don't apologize for it, because this is not you losing yourself. This is you finding yourself in the most honest way possible. And once you step into this version of you, you will never again confuse access with connection. You will never again confuse intensity with love. You will never again confuse chaos with passion. You will see clearly, feel deeply, and move wisely. And the people who once had unlimited access to you will realize something too late. They didn't lose someone who needed them. They lost someone who chose them over and over again until they chose themselves. And that is the shift no one can reverse. So the next time you feel guilty for changing, remember this. Cold does not mean cruel. Calm does not mean weak. Unreachable does not mean broken. It means you are no longer available for what once broke you. And that is what happens internally when an empath is hurt repeatedly.